What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Savvy, and welcome back to the Savvy Show. And in today's episode, we have a cool looking SCP. I'm not even too sure what we see on the thumbnail is the actual SCP, but without any further ado, this is SCP-407, the Song of Genesis. So I'm assuming this SCP is what it said. It's a song, and I'm guessing what we saw is the aftermath of hearing this song. Maybe it turns to this plant creature. I'm not too sure. It looks really cool, so we're going to dive deep into it. So with that being said, if you end up enjoying this reaction, please smash that like button for me, and also smash the sub button. Join the family. I make reactions like this daily for you guys, so if you like my reaction style, you like SCP content, this is the best place for you to be to get that dose of SCP heat. And also remember to smash that bell so you can stay plugged with each and every upload, because YouTube will not notify you every time I post, even if you're just subbed. So that's just an extra step to take to catch them when they're live. So with that being said, and without any further ado, let's get this show started. Alrighty, SCP-407, the Song of Genesis. Let's see what this is about.
It all started with a panicked phone call. A local landlady who owned a downtown tenement building had called the police in hysterics. Something horrifying had happened to one of her tenants. She couldn't possibly explain.
What's wrong with that
One
door?
detail she was able to articulate was that his room looked like a rainforest. A police response team was on the case in no time. They drove down to the tenement building, met the crying landlady at the door, and found their way to the room that caused all this confusion.
Yeah,
When
what's
they
going
opened
on?
the door, they saw with horror that she was right. Trees, plants, fungi,
It's like a
and even
rainforest.
insects and animals were all over the room.
The heck?
It was teeming with life. The flora and fauna in this room didn't look like anything else on Earth. And given the anomalous nature of what had happened here, it's extremely possible they were right.
Where's the person that was in that room? That's what I want to know. Yo.
The tenant, a university professor who'd recently gone on an anthropological expedition to the Amazon rainforest, was nowhere to be seen. But one of the officers spotted a grim clue for what may have happened to him. A large colony of anomalous mold was quickly growing on the far wall. The officer swore it was a trick of the mind at first, but he was wrong.
Oh,
A
there's the
human
skull.
was sinking into the tissue of the mold, and to make matters worse, whipping tendrils began to slither from the empty eye sockets, reaching for the new meat. Thankfully for everyone who was still alive at this point, the SCP Foundation swooped in and took over the situation with the help of a mobile task force
Take away
and
the
some
police.
containment specialists. The landlady, the cops, and the other residents of the building were given amnestics and relocated.
Nice.
The building was purchased by the Foundation and condemned while they searched the anomalous room for the source of this unchecked biological growth.
Okay.
And they found their answer in a most unlikely form. An unmarked cassette tape still inside the player.
A cassette?
When they arrived. The recording on this cassette tape came to be known as SCP-407.
That's a song.
It may be unassuming when compared to immortal, misanthropic lizard monsters and multi-dimensional chaos god.
How did you get that classified video file? Civilians can't be watching SCP. What? Yo, what's going on?
But the tape in that room, if it ever fell into the wrong hands, could cause a mass ecological catastrophe that would inevitably bloom into a dreaded XK-class end-of-the-world scenario.
Wow.
So first things first,
Just a song.
what is actually on this tape? Thanks to brief samples heard in tests with D-Class personnel, the Foundation was able to discover that it was an approximately 28-minute-long recording of a song. It's performed in an unknown language, and appears to be sung a cappella style by a group of unknown individuals. Fearing potential degradation of the cassette tape, the Foundation backed it up as an audio file in the Site-19 computer database. Those who've been able to listen to the song during testing have had an overwhelmingly positive emotional response, describing it as soothing, glorious, and beautiful. And for the first minute of its runtime, the song's anomalous effect really live up to this reputation.
I really want to know what it sounds like, though. Oh well, though.
When the song is played, it massively accelerates cell growth within its auditory range. Its potency is increased by the volume and the length it's allowed to play. It's important to note that plugging or covering your ears won't make any difference. The area of effect seems to be defined by how far the sound vibrations travel, and whether you're actually able to hear it is irrelevant.
It accelerates the cell growth. So why did they turn to like plants and branches? Like what? Silly thing.
But if you're only listening for a minute or less, you'll be glad to feel the anomalous effect of being within SCP-407's auditory range. During this specific period of time, it's been shown to be a kind of miracle cure to almost all physical maladies,
Oh wow.
with the exception of cancer. Thanks to the cell-growing and rejuvenating properties of the song, the Foundation discovered that 407 was an effective treatment for Alzheimer's disease, Crohn's disease, brain and spinal cord injuries,
What?
and normally fatal infections or wounds, amongst other maladies.
Bro, is this a Thamuel class SCP then? The Foundation could use this really, like, honestly, it seems very easy to control. It's just the duration, how long you play the cassette. It seems like the cassette doesn't have a mind of its own. It's just a song. So yeah, this should be a Thamuel class. They could use this for the SCP Foundation for the future. I hope that's the case. I don't know what else it would be. Maybe a key. No, it'll be either that or safe, honestly, because it's a cassette tape. So we shall see.
It was like a version of SCP-500, the pills that can cure everything, but one that would never run out.
I thought that was a
So,
joke SCP.
If it's such an effective healer, why wasn't it more widely employed by the Foundation? Because of what happens if you keep listening. If the song was played for 2 to 3 minutes, the subject would begin to experience unnecessary and unchecked cell growth, particularly on the skin. The result will mostly be benign tumors and calcium and fat deposits, which, though sometimes painful and disfiguring, are not life-threatening. At minute 4, single-celled organisms in the auditory vicinity of the song begin to experience accelerated mitosis, also known as cell division. This results in bacterial and fungal growth that become extremely dangerous for anyone and anything exposed.
Probably creating
and
cancer.
Beyond minute 5, things become truly monstrous. The Foundation only ever conducted 2 tests wherein the song was fully played.
Oh no.
These tests presented such a huge danger that further testing of 407 was forbidden without explicit permission from a member of O5 Command.
I hope they go in depth about what happens when you play the full song. Come on.
The first test involved a female member of D-Class personnel in a soundproofed but unsterilized testing chamber. As expected, she was initially delighted by the music. It cured her injured knee and brought her back to a state of peak physical fitness. But this didn't last for long.
And I knew what was going to happen.
She began to report intense dizziness and stomach pain, resulting in severe sickness. At this point, anomalous plant growth began in the corners of the testing chamber.
Around her.
It seemed as though a whole ecosystem was coming to life and evolving at an impossibly fast rate in the chamber.
I literally thought the plants would be coming from the human that's listening to the music. Why is it just coming around her?
Over the next few minutes, the D-Class experienced a nightmarish physical transformation. Her skin became a thick, calloused mass. She soon devolved further into a thick, immobile blob of pure flesh, unrecognizable as anything human, while the chamber around her was becoming a lush rainforest of alien plants.
Wow.
These plants grew around and eventually on her, until there was nothing left. Shortly after, all the plants died and decomposed, giving way to a huge mound of anomalous mold devouring the resulting mulch.
She basically turned to soil, honestly. A heap of soil. Wow.
The mold itself began to evolve, growing large mouth and hand-like structures that it used to feed itself on the surrounding flora and fauna as it began to grow back. When the song ended, the Foundation brought the test to a close, sterilized the room, and collected some samples for later.
That's dangerous.
There was nothing left of the original D-Class subject.
But honestly, it's still easy to control. Just time it right. Get a cassette tape player where it could only play for a minute. Like, it won't be able to pass more than a minute. Or why can't you just make a version of the song where it's just a minute long? Like, literally, like, play and then copy on another cassette where it's only just 1 minute, and then with the original, burn it, destroy it, neutralize it, and then you just got the 1 minute, and then you don't put on loop, just put 1 minute and that's it. I feel like that's so easy to like do, but I guess, you know, SCPs are SCPs.
The second test wasn't any nicer. While at first the subject, this time a male member of D-Class personnel, appeared to become more youthful and even gain an inch of height, As the minutes passed, he began to experience extreme discomfort. He soon began to vomit, with the vomit quickly blooming into plants. Plant shoots also began to quickly spring out of his eyes and mouth.
Okay, so this is different for every different individual that is in contact with this SCP or is hearing this song. He gained his youth back? Okay. And this one actually has plants growing out of him. Yo, this is a lot. Like, I wish we could see, like, what's the reason for this.
Until his entire body was destroyed by what appeared to be a banana tree suddenly growing out of it.
Oh my
Once
god.
again, the testing chamber became a whole ecosystem. This one filled with unique, never-before-seen mammals. However, it all came to an end when the room was taken over by a fast-growing parasitic fungus that consumed everything else with its spores and fungal stalks.
This is a lot. This is a lot. New species? New species. Out of nowhere. Just out of nowhere. From this rain. Yo. I need to hear that again. What the heck? This SCP is way more interesting than I thought on surface level. I hope they really do a lot of testing with it. They said they only did 2. Honestly, out of all the SCPs, like, this is something you should, like, delve a little bit deeper to find out. Because this holds a lot of secrets, it seems like.
Chamber became a whole ecosystem. This one filled with unique, never-before-seen mammals. However, it all came to an end when the room was taken over by a fast-growing parasitic fungus that consumed everything else with its spores and fungal stalks.
What?
And it looked like it was breathing. There was something concerning about both of these tests.
The old dude?
Beyond the obvious physical horror of watching death by unchecked cell growth. What was this mysterious fungus that kept appearing and seemed to take over everything it touched in the end? The Foundation tested the samples it collected rigorously, and it came to a surprising conclusion.
Was it the old dude?
They'd actually encountered this same fungus before, but not in this dimension. SCP-507 is a man with dimension-hopping abilities. The one problem
I heard about him.
He can't control where and when he hops. As a result, he's been stuck in a number of scary alternate dimensions.
That sucks.
But one seemed eerily similar to what the Foundation was encountering with SCP-407.
And it's interesting that he made a cameo because I'm going to be covering him soon on the channel, so you guys stay tuned for that one.
In one dimension he briefly hopped into, 507 encountered an abandoned version of Site-19, strewn with corpses covered in that same breathing mold.
Jeez.
He was horrified, but decided to inspect further, hoping to find his way out of the facility and discover some answers about what happened here. However, when he found his way out, what he discovered didn't comfort him. The entire world seemed to be covered by this same mold. There was nothing left. It consumed everything.
Okay, class
Thanks to
scenario.
Foundation tests, both molds were found to be similar to the cordyceps fungi, a kind of dangerous parasitic mold. Except this one appeared to be a far more evolved and even more deadly version of the fungus. What could this mean? What was the origin of this anomalous song? Would it and the fungus it seems to inspire someday destroy the world as we know it and kill us all?
I would love to see
We'll
where
never
it came
actually know
from,
the
though.
answer to any of this. And it's thanks to an extremely unlikely ally. A person of interest nicknamed LS. A prominent
Serpent's
member
hand.
of the Serpent's Hand.
Excuse me, Serpent's
This
hand.
enigmatic figure had previously come into possession of SCP-268, a hat that made them almost impossible to detect. With the help of this hat, LS breached Site-19 in an incident that was later dubbed Security Breach Incident X-23.
I wonder if that incident was actually in the animation video of the Serpent's Hand. That would be kind of cool to actually see if that was the case.
While it's believed that LS mainly broke into the facility to make use of SCP-914, they performed a curious action along the way. They hacked into the Foundation database and deleted all traces of SCP-407, effectively neutralizing it. In a note left by LS, they said, "You'll thank me for deleting what you call 407. Why would a member of the Serpent's
Deleted
Hand,
it?
a group of interest that is often militant in their anti-neutralization stance, neutralize an SCP themselves?" The answer to this lays in who exactly LS is. This mysterious figure isn't technically one person.
Little
They're
sisters.
a group of the same person. namely a woman named Allison Chow, from a number of different dimensions. They meet in the Wanderer's Library, the headquarters of the Serpent's
They have
Hand
all
that exists
knowledge,
between
though.
dimensions to coordinate their missions. Why does this matter in regards to SCP-407? Because the nature of LS allows them to know what's going on in a huge number of dimensions at once. This means, much like the brief glimpse given by SCP-507, LS likely knows about another universe where 407 and its horrific mold have already caused an XK-class scenario and destroyed the world.
So this is definitely how to
if
be
it happened
terminated.
there due to poor biological containment measures, or 407 falling into the wrong hands, it could happen here too. Unless, of course, someone stepped in and dealt with the problem personally. And while the Foundation's policy is typically to contain rather than neutralize the anomalies they find, we have to admit, we're probably with the Serpent's Hand on this one. Some songs, as it turns out, are just better left unplayed.
So it's neutralized. Okay, that's cool. I could understand that. I figured it will be a Daimyo class if they could actually, do enough to, only make it play a minute long. But I guess they couldn't, and it's terminated. This is Deadly SCP. If you guys enjoyed this reaction, please remember to smash that like button. Also, smash the sub button and turn on the bell so you always get plugged with each and every upload. So with that all out the way, unfortunately, that concludes today's episode. However, I'll catch you guys on the next one. With